Hello everyone and welcome back to another Essential Album video. We're now on week 30 and this week we're taking a look at Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. First released February 13th, 1970. Some notable tracks on this album include Black Sabbath, NIB, The Wizard, and Sleeping Village. And we're doing this episode here, this particular album, as kind of like a tribute to Ozzy, who roughly about a week ago. Yeah, this is going out on a Tuesday. Recording this on a Monday. But yeah, roughly a week ago, we lost the legendary Ozzy Osbourne, obviously from Black Sabbath, as well as like solo work and things like that. Just an absolute legend in heavy metal music, just music in general. I think there's a lot of bands that kind of came out after them that if Black Sabbath wasn't a thing, a lot of these bands may or may not even exist without the influence of Ozzy and Black Sabbath. Like any band that probably played at the final performance, like a few weeks back, probably kind of like owes a huge debt to kind of like the influence of Ozzy Osbourne, and like even like non-metal musicians probably took something from him, from just like his showmanship or like stage presence and things like that, just kind of his larger than life like personality. And yeah, this album is incredible. This is their debut. I remember seeing an interview, kind of like a funny interview, like of a story Kirk Hammett of Metallica was telling about how when they were on tour together, I think this would have been probably early '80s. They each had a tour bus. Metallica had their tour bus, and Ozzy's band had their tour bus. And they pull into a truck stop, and everybody uh, gets off the bus except for Ozzy off of his bus and Cliff Burton off the Metallica bus. And Ozzy goes over to Metallica's bus and then just asks if they have any beer, and then basically just starts drinking their beer. It kind of reminds me of something that's like tangentially related to like Ghostbusters. If it's like if somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes. If Ozzy asks you for if you have beer, you say yes. You just give him your beer. You probably go out and buy him beer if you don't have any. But yeah, just a really kind of fun story there. And yeah, just definite legend in the heavy metal community, and just like the history of heavy metal. This album is considered by many to be basically the first heavy metal album. I think there's a little bit of like influence from bands like Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin kind of teetered on going from like rock into like harder rock, but a lot of people kind of point at Black Sabbath as being kind of the first true metal band, and this being the first true metal album. I think I did on the other Essential Album series, I did Paranoid. I think Paranoid is my favorite, but this favorite album from them. But this one is also just amazing. So I have some notes here about it. We're going to get to our track list and all that. But yeah, again, this episode kind of tribute to the legendary Ozzy Osbourne. So let me just pull my notes up here. There we go. So like I said earlier, first release February 13th, 1970. I pulled up a 1970 calendar online just to see what day that was. I'm like, that would be really cool if that was a Friday. And of course it was. So came out on Friday the 13th, or February 13th, which was a Friday in 1970. So just incredibly influential. Like I said, I prefer Paranoid just a little bit more because Paranoid just has some amazing hits on it. Some of Sabbath's most iconic tracks, like War Pigs, is on there. Iron Man is on there. Paranoid is on there. But this one has like The Wizard, and it has like the title track. The title track, Black Sabbath, is just this really spooky sounding intro. Sounds really cool. Let's see here. When they recorded this album, they did it all roughly in a 12-hour period. I have a list of quotes here. We're going to be jumping back between this quote list fairly frequently. But this is a quote from Tony Iommi, and he was saying, "We just went in the studio and we did it in a day. We played our live set, and that was it. We actually thought a whole day was quite a long time. Then off we went the next day to play for, imagine this is 20 pounds in Switzerland. So basically just a 12-hour session in the studio, and that was basically it. And that's basically what you get on the album. Like there's a few like effects like rain and thunder that were like added in later, but like pretty much the album is basically just what they laid down in the studio with very few like effects and things like that. And just an interesting story about Tony Iommi's like fingers. Apparently, when he was, I think he was like 17, he was working. I think it was like a sheet metal factory, and sliced like the tips of his fingers off on his like his near his middle fingers. So he basically, and I think that this sounds incredibly metal, is basically made himself homemade fingertips using plastic from like a dish soap container, and just changed the way he played music with that hand injury. And that hand injury kind of ended up giving Sabbath some of their like iconic their iconic sound. I don't know if I have a quote about that. Let me take a look if I did. Oh, here we go. So and he was saying like how he basically had to like down tune his guitar and play it in a certain way because of the injury to his fingers. So it's a quote. I played a load of chords, and I had to play fifths because I couldn't play fourths because of my fingers. That helped me develop my style of playing. Let's see, bending the strings and hitting the open string at the same time, just to make the sound wilder. And then Geezer Butler, the bassist, has a quote here as well, which just shows how they kind of developed their heavy sound. And his quote was, quote, "Back then, the bass player was supposed to do all the melodic runs, but I didn't know how to do that because I'd been a guitarist. So all I did was follow Tony's riff. That made the sound heavier." So basically, you have, from the way it sounds, you have Tony like laying down like his parts, and then you have Geezer Butler basically mirroring those parts on the bass. So that just adds to a heavier overall sound, which is just really cool. There's a quote from Ozzy as well about the recording process I want to bring up. So this is the quote from Ozzy. He says, quote, "Once we finished, we spent a couple hours double tracking some of the guitar and vocals, and that was that. Done. We were in the pub in time for last orders. It can't even have taken any longer than 12 hours in total. That's how albums should be made, in my opinion." So basically, I think last orders is essentially like last call. Like they go in, like during the day, they play all their music, they lay down all the tracks, and they still have time to hit the pub afterward to get like a beer or something. Really, really kind of cool story there. Apparently, when they were forming the band, Ozzy had put in like basically did like an advertisement in a music store, and I think I saw an interview with Tony Iommi where he was basically like confirming this, because I think the interviewer asked him, he's like, "Hey, is this like true that Ozzy put up an advertisement in a music store, and that's how he got brought in as the vocalist?" And Tony Iommi basically said yes, that was true. And so there's a sign basically in a music store advertising his services, and the quote was on the sign apparently, or on the advertisement, was, "Ozzy Zig needs gig, has own PA." Like he's like, "Hey, hire me. I need work, and I got my own PA for it." Apparently, there were the reviews on this album now, retrospectively, are very, very good. But back when this album came out, a lot of people probably just didn't know what it was, or what, like, because it's a whole new kind of genre that we're exploring. So there was a bunch of negative reviews right at first, and obviously it's looked back on now as being this kind of groundbreaking album that essentially created, or like basically was like successfully created this new genre of heavy metal. So some of the negative reviews are kind of funny. So I'm going to bring up. I have those listed out as here as well. Apparently, in Rolling Stone, the quote was from the review was, quote, "Just like Cream, but worse. But worse. A shuck, despite the murky song titles and some inane lyrics that sound like Vanilla Fudge playing Droggerol, tribute to Aleister Crowley. The album has nothing to do with spiritualism, the occult, or anything much except stiff recitations of Cream cliches." And then Robert Christgau, I think from the Village Voice, was saying, quote, "The album is, quote, bullshit." This is kind of funny. Quote, "bullshit necromancy," and then also the worst of the counterculture. So obviously negative reviews because like I think a lot of people just did not understand what they were listening to when this album came out. You know, like 55 years ago now. Yeah, so 70. Yeah, 70. So 55 years ago. It's kind of crazy to think about. But we're going to bring up the retrospective reviews, which are much more favorable. Let me actually just pull those up. So AllMusic now has it at a 4.5 out of 5. Crystal's Record Guide gives it a C minus. I don't know if that sounds like it might be a little more favorable than his original review. But let's see if it's the same. Yeah, same person. So maybe a little more favorable than his original review. Who knows? Still kind of negative. But the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal has it at an 8 out of 10. Encyclopedia of Popular Music has it at a 3 out of 5. While Music Hound Rock gave it a 4 out of 5. Rolling Stone Album Guide has it at a 5 out of 5. Sputnik Music has it at a 5 out of 5, and Uncut has it at a 7 out of 10. So obviously much better reviews, kind of like retrospectively. And now we're going to look at our track list here. So let's see, comes in about 38 minutes. Kind of like that perfect runtime for an album. Between like 35 and 45 minutes to me is kind of like a nice little sweet spot. But we have here 7 tracks, again, 38 minutes basically. Track 1 is Black Sabbath, that's the title track. That one is just incredibly spooky and very slow. It's like it hits the themes of heavy metal songs, but it's not really a heavy song like instrumentally. And then track 2 we get a little bit heavier with The Wizard. The Wizard is great, probably my favorite track on the album. And I remember when I saw recently, wasn't this past weekend, maybe I should bring a calendar up. Guess it would have been calendar here. Let me take a look here. That was that Saturday. Yeah, so basically like a week and a half ago, I saw Chevy Metal. Again, the band formed by Taylor Hawkins, and now his son Shane runs the band. Actually met Shane before the show, like talked a little bit. It was kind of cool. But he was saying when they were playing their set that this is like I think his favorite Sabbath song to play live, which is The Wizard. So yeah, track 2 is The Wizard. Great song there. Track 3 is Behind the Wall of Sleep. Track 4, another just iconic Sabbath song is NIB. And then we move into track 5. We have Evil Woman. Track 6 is Sleeping Village. And then track 7 is Warning. So again, 7 tracks coming in about 38 minutes overall. Kind of like I said, kind of that sweet spot on how long an album should be. Again, yeah, this is probably overall, I would say probably my second favorite Black Sabbath album. Master of Reality is also great. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is also just incredible. But yeah, they have a lot of just incredibly iconic music. And kind of like I said earlier, this is kind of the prototypical, like basically very first or widely regarded as the very first heavy metal album. And it does a really good job of kind of establishing the genre. And then, less than like 7 months later, they put out Paranoid, which I think is even better than this one. So this one's great, but then they come out and blow it out of the water with their follow-up Paranoid, which is also just amazing. But that is going to do it for this video. Again, this has been kind of the tribute episode for Ozzy. I knew as soon as I read the news last week about his passing that I would have to do a Sabbath album for the following video. And this is definitely probably like one of my favorite Sabbath albums. I listened to it less than Paranoid, but it's still in pretty heavy rotation for me. So again, that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one.